Don't let wreaths intimidate you. There's some things we can do to put them together in a fun and fast way with just a few materials. So I'm going to share some of my favorite felt flower wreath making tips to design any wreath you can think of. So I like grapevine wreaths. This is an 18-inch grapevine wreath. 14 inch is also a great size. I am using binding wire. It is what florists use to attach stems together, like to bind up a real flower bouquet. But I ordered a big roll of it on Amazon, and it's really flexible and easy to tighten and secure. So I really like to just find some faux greenery at the craft store in these grapevine wires. I got this carrot one at Michael's. I think I got the other one at the base at Hobby Lobby, but just find them wherever you shop for faux florals and attach them to your grapevine wreath. And I am just using the wire on that base and wrapping it all the way around the grapevine wire, not worrying about sticking it inside, but just wrapping it all the way around. And then I cut up the one with the carrots and just glued those around, almost like as little picks. Felt, I keep saying felt because I'm used to saying felt, but this is just faux floral picks. And this provides a great backdrop for our felt flowers that we're about to make. One of my favorite styles of wreaths is like a full felt flower wreath, but those are very time consuming. So this option is available if you're wanting to come up with a design that doesn't just take a ton of time in making your felt flowers. So faux greenery is a great way to do that. And I like to make sure I have a good base of faux greenery as the backdrop for the flowers. I think green leaves and other little accents really make the flowers pop and stand out, and in a fun way just kind of bring everything together at the same time. So I do spend some time on the faux greenery, just cutting it up and gluing, but the process is fast, and I used to try and make everything super symmetrical when I made wreaths, and now I don't really worry about that. I've kind of found a style that I enjoy, which is just really focused on color and design, and so in the sense of like simple design, I'm not worrying about everything being perfectly arranged. Like you can see those carrots right there are pretty close together, and I was like, I'm not sure where I want that, but I didn't have it spaced out perfectly, so I decided not to worry about it. There's a couple bunches of carrots that are closer than the others, and that won't matter in the end. I also love faux lamb's ear, so I used that in this wreath as well to fill in any gaps. It's a great greenery that works great all year round, so I highly recommend that also. To make a simple felt daffodil, we're using some shapes that are available on my website, and I have those in the description, exactly what I used, but this is just a center that I designed for the daffodil. You can cut up a little bit of fringe and roll it up in the inside of this flower, put some glue on the bottom, and then bring these 6 yellow petals around. And I just do 2 layers of 3, and I put a little bit of glue on the bottom of that petal, not up the sides, and then just attach it to the bottom of the daffodil center. And I'm just spacing these out pretty evenly around. Some of them will overlap a little bit more than others. That's totally fine. One thing about wreaths or flowers for wreaths is we're not necessarily focusing on one specific flower. We're kind of going for an overall spring theme. So we want our flowers to look pretty, of course, but they don't have to be perfect. And that's, I think, one of the freeing things about making felt flowers. We can choose when to be more detailed, depending on the project that we're making or what we enjoy personally. And for me, just this felt flower, I just wanted to be pretty and springy for the design. Then we are going to do a Gerber daisy. This is a white center. I fold that over lengthwise and then cut fringe along the length of the folded side. You saw me snip off the end of that leaf, in that center strip, and that's because it was just a little bit uneven. Then I tuck it in and start rolling, add glue at the end, and then finish up rolling up that center strip. And then I'm going to glue my petals around. This is a smaller petal than the outside layer will be, so I'm going to do 2 layers of this, and I did space them out, one across from each other with 2 in the middle of each. So that's a total of 6 petals on the inside first layer of this flower. This is petal shape number 1. In the description, it will have for you what petals to use to make this flower. You can buy them individually, or you can be a part of my felt flower membership design hub. It's just a monthly membership, and you can get access to any petal or design that you see me make digitally. So we do 2 layers of that smaller petal, and then we go to the outside and just do 2 more layers of the larger petals. So this is a really full, pretty flower that's nice and big and layered with lots of petals around it, but it's really easy to assemble. We're just spacing these out one across from each other and then filling in the gaps and coming back with a second layer to put a petal inside that space where those other 2 meet, so it peeks out from behind and fills in that gap, and it just ends up being a really pretty full Gerber daisy. And of course there are so many fun color combinations when making felt flowers like this, which is one of my favorite things about felt flowers in general, is all the colors. So I did go ahead and add some hairspray to these flowers just to give it a little bit more stability. Okay, for this flower, we're doing a big center. I used a 1.5 centimeter felt ball. If you do not have felt balls, you can just skip that step and make fringe. That folded fringe is the middle, or just do this fringe and roll it up on itself. But I did do this 2 times around that center ball, and I'm just wrapping it around to provide a pretty fringe for this big pink flower we're about to make. And I used these petals in 2 different sizes. So 1 layer of these petals on the inside, and then another layer of 2 petals of the larger, well, 2 layers of the larger petal size. So I do overlap these quite a bit. I wanted this to be, like I said, a full flower with lots and lots of petals, especially since this has like that really fun fringe at the top. So I just wanted it to be full and big and overlapping. I like big flowers for wreaths, especially an 18-inch grapevine wreath. It's a big wreath, so don't be afraid to make bigger flowers. And we do that by using the bigger petal sizes and just overlapping and layering a lot of them on there. Now, one thing I do like to remind you of, or do a tip that I like to follow, is don't go straight from a small center to a large petal. That's why I like to use the smaller petal almost like as part of the center, I guess. It kind of bridges the gap between the small center and the large petals. I don't always do that, but I find that I like the way that looks. So instead of going, having like a big empty space, you can do that small layer of petals or that layer of smaller petals. They don't have to be actually small, but smaller than that biggest size on the flower. And that provides some just balance as you build out the flower, so it doesn't feel like you have a big gap in the middle of that design. So I went ahead and did hairspray on all of these. I like to use this little sheet of wax paper on my desk. It works really well, and you can use baby wipes to clean the hairspray off if it does get on your surface. At least these IKEA desks work really well with baby wipes. So for these flowers, I just hot glue and put them on. I didn't even have a plan for this. I was just kind of playing around with where I wanted them. So don't feel like you always have to go in to a project knowing what it's going to look like when you're finished. If we pick a pretty color palette we enjoy and some flowers that we like, it's going to turn out great. And I just ended up doing 2 different clusters of felt flowers on this wreath, kind of grouped together. There wasn't even really necessarily a plan for that, but I did really like how it turned out. And you can kind of see me pausing and thinking about what I'm doing, because, this is the fun part where everything comes together, but it can be a little nerve-wracking thinking, I hope my hard work pays off, and I promise you that it will. There's really nothing that we can do wrong when it comes to crafting and things that we enjoy and the people that we're making it for, or for ourselves. So just have fun playing around. The more you practice, the better you'll get, but that doesn't mean you have this perfect method that works every time. It means that you trust yourself as a crafter and that you enjoy the process while you're making it, because that's super important. And I am not a bow maker by any means, but this is how I did the bow. Just 2 loops and then wrap and then pull, and then I did come up with like this little part inside out. So I tried again, trying to figure out how to fix that, but it really wasn't something I needed to fix. I actually just needed to stick with this method. And then when I pulled it through, because this bow is not a 2-sided ribbon, I just needed to flip that out to where the right side faces out. This is an example of why I love using 2-sided ribbon, because we don't have to worry about that. But this is one of my favorite little spring ribbons, this burlap style with the polka dots on it. It's a really cute ribbon. I think I get it at Hobby Lobby. But then I did go over to my Sam's ribbon here in a minute and use pink as the backdrop, and just made another bow exactly the same to put behind it, and use that pink pop of ribbon behind the burlap and polka dot. So just glue those on, and we have our finished spring wreath to hang up and enjoy on our door or wherever we can think of. This is on like a little chalkboard. Actually, it's a big chalkboard in my dining room, and I am just enjoying looking at it anytime I pass through. So I'm having a hard time moving it to my door because I see it here more.